How are you?
You doing?
Doing great.
Right on, right on. Let me just get there. You are. Okay, I had to make my screen a little bigger.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I have a kind of funny story to tell about you.
Oh boy. Okay.
Me and my wife go to M3 Rock Fest every year.
Oh yeah.
I believe it was about 2 years ago. XYZ played. It was you and Terry and a couple other guys. Well, I'm one of those that sits there because I get so I listened to this music for so long. I just get so excited to see guys that I have, idolized and listened to and followed for since 1985, since I was first started. But anyway, I saw you had an XYZ t-shirt on. It was black. And you were walking up, we were right beside, and you were walking up the steps, and I kind of lost you because I was going to walk up to you and see if I could get my picture with you and just get you to sign something. But anyway, I was well, you were going to the restroom. I was going that way too. And believe it or not, you were sitting there in the stall, standing right beside me in the stall, and you had already walked out and was gone because I saw the back of your t-shirt because it had XYZ wrote on the back. But that's my that's my claim to fame with Mr. Paul. And I never got close enough to you to even speak to you, but it's a
Hey,
pleasure
well,
it's a
we
pleasure
were.
having you. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
I appreciate it, man. And yeah, so we shared a bathroom stall together. Is that what you said?
Well, you got the urinals in there, and I was here and
Urinal.
you were
Sorry,
there, and
I mean that. Yeah, not the
yeah,
stall,
so
the urinal.
yeah,
Big
yeah,
difference.
exactly. So we actually, we shared a stall side by side at M3 in
Yeah,
Maryland about 2 years ago. So
yeah. It might even been. Was it even 3 years
it might
ago?
have been 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just started playing out at that time, and I remember like this was one of the first gigs I did, and I was freezing ass cold.
Oh man, that was the worst weekend because we went, we went. I don't know that we went the year before that or we went the year first year we went. They decided to do it on Fourth of July weekend,
Hmm.
and it was so daggum hot. But that year, me and my wife, we froze to death. We went and bought one of those. They were selling the hemp blankets
Oh yeah.
up there in the thing. So we went and got one of those, but I can also say my feet stayed cold. And on Sunday, I didn't want to leave early, but Warrant had just come on the stage, and I looked at my wife and I said, "We can be home in 6 hours. Let's go home." So
Wow.
we got in the car and cut the heat on, and we were home by like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was finally warm. But yeah, that was a miserable weekend. You're not kidding about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't really like playing outside, so I was like doing jumping jacks for about 45 minutes backstage. I was trying to jog back and forth, jump up and down. When I went to start playing, I wore like 3 layers of clothing. And
Yeah.
then you might see in the video, I mean, I was like rushing Phil because I was freezing. My body was just like, it didn't react well. And I seen guys out there with no shirts. I'm like, what are you,
Oh yeah.
the heck? So then, yeah, after like 3 or 4 songs, you could see when Terry started talking, I took off all my layers of clothing. That was all heated up by then. And then I
Oh
just put
yeah.
on the t-shirt and then I was fine. But yeah, I was miserable there just getting going for a few songs there.
There were guys in front of us that were in shorts and no shirt and
Right.
flip flops. And I told my wife, I was
Exactly.
like, "See, the more beers you drink, the braver you get, and the warmer you get."
That's yes, yeah, that's what I didn't do. I didn't get trashed. That would have helped.
I have always been an XYZ fan. I remember seeing you guys when Inside Out came on MTV, and you that's one album I can say I bought. And most of the time you hear a band and you go buy that song, and that's really the only good song on the whole CD. But I can honestly say the first XYZ CD is excellent. Every song on that album is great. I
Thank you.
mean, I just think there were so many bands during that time that one looked like the other and the other looked like the other. And I understand those guys back in that era, everybody was trying to make it, and I get it. You guys had a distinctive sound, and I remember seeing the ad for your album in Metal Edge magazine before it ever came out. And yeah, I know it was produced by Don Dockett, and it said you were comparing you guys to Dockett, but you guys didn't sound like Dockett. You had a
Right.
great heavy melodic sound, and
Yeah.
now when the second album came out, Hungry, it seemed like you guys were a little bit heavier
Yeah.
in your sound, and I
Yeah.
liked it just as much.
Yeah, Don was a big influence on that first album. He came in and gave us ideas for melodies and things like that. And he sang on some of the background vocals too, so you could hear his voice in the background vocals.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a time where they say the window of opportunity, and the window was wide open for a lot of bands, and then Guns N' Roses got through it, and Poison got through it, and Warrant, and really the window started closing as grunge and
Yes.
rap started coming in. And just when the window was about to close, XYZ slipped through and
Right.
was
Yes.
able to just kind of enjoy some time for a couple years, a few years. But really, the transition of music at that time, as we're seeing now, it took all this time as this big circle of music comes around where we're back to the rock and roll again,
Yes.
and it
Exactly.
just goes in phases like that. But it was a big phase where we just got phased out.
But it was amazing how I talked to Gus Scott, the drummer for Trickster, last week,
Right.
and we were talking about he has a vodka company. We were talking about that, but anyway, he said they put their first video on MTV. They went out on tour, and they stayed out on tour for like a year and a half, a year and three quarters, and it was 30,000 people there. And just as soon as MTV, he explained that MTV decided once Nirvana popped up there with Smells Like Teen Spirit, they weren't going to play hair metal videos anymore. And he
Right.
said they went from playing to 30,000 people to when it was almost over with, there was hardly any people in the crowd at all. And it's amazing how MTV as an entity made the era of hair metal huge, and yet then in a split second they took it all away, and record companies were dropping bands like XYZ. You guys were done. And I just can't imagine the what the wave you guys rode. And I know, like you say, y'all came in a little bit towards the end of it. The wave did this happened in the 80s, and then all of a sudden it's like getting the carpet ripped off from under your feet. I just can't imagine how that feels.
It felt worse later as we got older and looked back, because at
Sure.
the time we didn't really understand what was happening. It was the first time for us, and we were on Enigma Records at first,
Yes.
and then when this whole transition started happening, Enigma dropped like all their artists because they were a subsidiary,
Yes.
yeah,
That's it.
something like that. I'm
Yes.
not great with
That
words.
sounds good. We'll go with it. Subsidiary. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Something
They're
like that.
a branch of
A branch of, yes.
Capitol Records.
Right.
So Capitol Records said, "Okay, yeah, you're dumping all these guys, but I want three bands, and we were one of them." So Capitol Records brought us over to them, and we were with them for like a little over a year, and still, trying to do things, but again, you're going against the grain. So,
Right.
it was just a major transition. We did the best we could, but it was just bad timing for us. It was a great band. Yeah, we had good songs and people enjoyed it. And we still have a good fan base. There's still people out there that enjoy
Sure.
our music, and we appreciate that. It's fantastic when we see some posts on Facebook or,
Oh yeah.
wherever. It's just a blessing to just have a few people that still are into it. But yeah, we missed that opportunity. We're just a little too late, and that's what happens. I mean, it's timing. We're grateful enough to get a tour and get a record deal and play with many great bands and meet a lot of great people, which some that I still talk to this day, and great connections. But now obviously everything's changed. Back
Sure.
then, the only way to be known is you had to have a record deal. You had to be on MTV. and oh, I see the guy on the television, and oh, I saw him in the mall, and oh my God, and that's it. That's the only way you get the record deal. You go on tour, and that's how you get that recognition. Now, as you said, no record, record companies barely exist anymore. People don't
Right.
need them anymore. And the
Yes.
videos that I see on YouTube, the talent is just, oh my God, these people have been around all along. It's just we
Hmm.
didn't know where to find them because there was no social media outlet.
Right.
We were still using payphones back then, I think, So so for all you young folks out there, payphones are little,
Right.
you got to put
Yes.
a dime in
Put a
there,
dime in it. Right.
dial it like a
Exactly.
rotary, and it's a little booth, like a Superman booth.
And then when you get ready to run out, the operator will say, please deposit 25 more cents. And you're like, I
That's
don't got
right.
25 more
Yeah,
cents.
yeah, yeah. Anybody got a quarter? Hey, man.
Exactly. You're looking around on the ground to see if there's a dime happen to be laying on the ground.
That's
But
right.
I think nowadays I my Instagram page is nothing but this kind of music, and I try to post everything I possibly can. I have two that I made that I was going to post tomorrow on Instagram because I was talking to you today. Two XYZ posts, one from the first album, one from the second. You
Great.
know, you see the regular stuff, and when you search on YouTube, you guys had a couple of videos, but after that, there's not a whole lot of what you can put for XYZ. So I always try to, I try to put a song on there that you see the songs that you're known for all the time, but there's so many good songs. Maggie is a great song.
Yeah.
A Nice Day to Die is a great song. I mean, that song you can sit in your car and turn the volume wide open, and it still ain't quite loud enough when you play that song. But I'm just saying, I try to post stuff like that on Instagram all the time because this music means so much to me, you know. And I keep it going any way I can. I'm 53 years old and I'm a hair metal junkie. I love it. I'll never
Awesome.
stop loving it.
That's awesome.
And it's so not what a point I was trying to make is it. Back then you guys had to depend on. I've talked to other fellows before, and that were in the Sunset Strip era and lived around there, and you depended on a flyer. A lot of the guys have told me, they had to pay X amount of money and sell X amount of tickets at these places to even get to play.
Right. Can't
Now,
play. Hmm.
you can cut your iPhone on and sit in front of a drum kit and record it and send it out, and 50 million people see it in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
bands nowadays, I've never been in a band before, and I speak what I feel, but bands nowadays have it, I believe, so much better as far as advertising yourself or getting
Yeah.
yourself out there. Plus, you have people that have followed you all this time. If you hashtag XYZ band on Instagram, there's tons of people that post XYZ stuff, and I think it's great that this music is still floating around out there.
So yeah, and it is a double-edged sword because you do have the social media outlet. You don't need the record companies. You could really promote yourself. Back then, if you get a record deal, which is very difficult, but if you did, they're going to put a lot of money into it. They're going
Sure.
to produce it. They're going to put you in a huge, nice tour bus, and they're going to, pay for the hotels and everything. Everything's paid for, and it's like, wow, you think you're living like a king, right? These days, you don't need any of that, right? You could do it on your
Right.
own. However, it's still difficult. It's still difficult to have a new band,
Right.
um, which I'll tell you about a little later, which me and
Sure.
Mark from XYZ have a new band. But um, you put a new band out there, and now you're relying on not the record company, but the Google and the YouTube algorithms, right?
Yes.
And nobody's been able to figure that out because if you could figure that out, you can get 1 million views in a day.
Thank you.
So, how do you get to the audience? And I kind of know, what has to happen. You got to get people to, watch your videos. You got to get them to like the video. You got to get them to subscribe, and you got to get them to comment on your videos. If you get all those things happening, then the Google algorithms pick that up and say, wow, there's some interest here. it's not even a human being, it's AI all generated. Okay,
Yeah.
let's push this to the next level and see if we could reach another audience, and then that's how it goes viral. But
Right.
to get it from the launching pad just to the next step, in my opinion, is almost more difficult than back in the day. You get more exposure and you can
Yeah.
easily do it, and anybody can record a song today, load it up on YouTube, and you're online. You're in the public's eye. But how do you actually get that to to grow? And that's the challenge that a lot of new bands have.
I see what you're saying. 'Cause last week I had a band. They're called Smoking Snakes. They're from Sweden,
Okay.
and they sound a lot like uh, Faster Pussycat. They
Mm,
sound like Jet Boy, that
yeah.
glamour, And they just messaged me on Instagram and said we would like to do your podcast if you don't mind. But anyway, I was talking to him, and they have these extravagant videos on YouTube, and you think these guys are just killing it. He said, we haven't even played a gig yet, and it's been 2 years.
Right.
He said,
Right.
all that production, they take a couple of snapshots of us, put us in front of a blue screen, and we pantomime the song, and then they take it from there and add all the effects to it. He's like, we can't even get the more known bands are going to keep playing. He's like, we haven't even got a gig yet. I've got 2 jobs.
Yeah.
We're kind of like do this for fun, but they they
Yeah.
are they are fronted by Frontiers Records. They're
Oh,
putting
there
their
you go.
their
Yeah.
record out for them. But he's like, it's like what you just said. He's like, as far as they put the record out, but as far as anything else, it's up to us to you know put videos or posts or stuff.
Reminded me of something that when XYZ first came out, and we were a big buzz on the Sunset Strip, and we were the house band at the Whiskey. So, the locals really knew who we were. And then we got the record deal, and it kind of blew up, and they advertised us a lot. So we basically went to this place. I remember going with our manager at this time to some place, I believe it was somewhere in the South Bay area in here in California. And we just walked into the Ibanez store, and my band walked out with 3 guitars. I mean, it was like no questions. Oh, you guys are XYZ. Oh, yeah, you just pick whatever you want. We got your endorsement, sign here. And they got endorsed instantly. And I was like, wow, man, I wish I played guitar. Like, what's good? And Bob's like, oh, our manager, he says, oh, don't worry about it. Paul, Sabian's right next door. Me and you are gonna go over there in a second. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I went over there. The guy named Michael. He was really, really cool. Knew exactly who we were. And he said, hey, man, yeah, you got an endorsement, anything you need. And I went in there, walked out of there with like 10 brand new cymbals. And
Wow.
and he said, if you break one, bring it back. We give you a brand new one. I don't care what size it is. It's just, replace and break and replace, whatever they called it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's so fantastic. So the point is here now, today, not that easy.
Oh
So
yeah.
you go back to these same people and say, hey, I'm playing in front of 20,000 people a night. I need an endorsement. There's a chance you might not get one
Right.
because they're more interested. And I heard this directly from the guys that endorsed me back in the day. They told me, Paul, straight up, the way that we look at it now is we look at YouTube views and subscribers. If you got a channel and you're getting like 1 million subscribers, we're going to give you an endorsement. But we really don't care who's playing out live and how many people you're playing in front of, because we're hitting a much bigger target audience with these guys online. And some of them have never played a live show in their lives. They're
Wow.
instructors, and I know a few drummers out there that do very, very well. They're good drummers, but I don't really see them playing live that much, and they didn't get their name like that. They got their name from building their channel. And from that, the endorsement companies just, oh, I mean, you could have whatever you want. So that whole thing just completely changed, took a turn for 180 degrees when social media came out. And yeah, and now even just getting endorsements is very difficult. I don't even care how big your band is. It's just your social media presence is the most important thing to them.
So
Yeah.
what was it like on the Sunset Strip? The Sunset Strip fascinates me. I love to hear stories about it. You know, it was like a whole movement, a whole culture.
Yeah, no, it was. When I first came out here, I really didn't have a place to live. I just went for it. And so
Right,
met a whole bunch of people. One guy let me live in the back seat of his car for about 3 months. And
wow.
every night we would drive to the Sunset Strip. He's like, we got to go to the Sunset Strip. And I was like, hey, if you say that's the place and that's the place, let's go. And yeah, it was like a zoo of women and, long hairs. And it was just everyone had one thing in mind, just to get laid, that's
Oh yeah, yeah,
and women too. And these are women that are single,
sure.
young, no kids, there's like it's like, like a free for all out there. So me
Right.
and my buddy would drive up in the car and just from the whiskey all the way down to Gazari's. Whew, I mean, it was just packed, packed every weekend. That was the place to go. And you just bar hop, go to the
Right.
Zari's and the Roxy and the whiskey. And then at the end, everyone goes to the Rainbow, you
Okay.
and it was wild. It was every rock star that that was in town. That's where they hung out. If you were on vacation and you wanted to meet a rock star, I don't care who. I just want to meet somebody famous. Just go to the Rainbow. 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday or Saturday night. You're gonna meet a whole bunch of them. It was
Wow.
guaranteed. So it was just, yeah, it was just wild, like crazy, crazy wild.
Yeah, that just my dream would be, and I tell it all the time on my show, was to create a time machine and just go back in
Uh,
time and experience it, because I love the one of the premises of this podcast is just I get to talk to people that I've followed their music for so long, and people that I never would imagine ever talking to, and I love to hear stories about the '80s, because
yeah.
I just think the '80s the was the greatest time to have grown up to be a teenager. It
Yeah.
was it was it was fun. It was you're not getting in trouble. You're not going around tearing up stuff and causing havoc. You just I told one guy, I said, your music. I heard your music on a local radio station here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was NC State University. And on Saturdays from 12 to 3, they played hair metal. That's where I heard Leatherwolf. That's
Mm,
where I heard Tesla,
yeah.
bands like that. So when I could pick it up at home, I would put the old Memorex tape in the tape deck and hit record, and I would record that 3 hour radio show. And Friday nights, I mean, you just it was all about hair metal and cruising and turning music as loud as you could, and just having a good time. That's what I love about this music and the whole '80s era. And all the only exposure I've ever had to it is, of course, Decline of Western Civilization. That gave you the movie. That kind of gave you a look at what it was like going into Grizzari's and handing out flyers and that
Yep.
kind of stuff. And I know that was a tough. You said you lived in the back of a car for 3 months. I know that was a tough life to live, but it's like one guy kind of set me straight a little bit. He's like, you were doing it to get a record deal, yes, but you were doing it because you loved doing what you were doing. You might
True.
not eat for 2 days,
Right.
but you were going to be on the strip that
Yep.
night
Yep.
doing everything you could to get yourself
Yeah.
exposed.
That's it. And that's what it was all about. And I kind of knew that. I knew that this is going to take some hard work. I'm going to have a story here. I don't know what that story is going to be, but I'm going to kind of in my head document my own journey because I would lay in the back of that car and looking out the side window and I could see stars out there and I'm like, I'm living in the back seat of a car and
Right.
I know one day I'm going to get a record deal and I'm going to go on tour and I'm going to be on that stage just like my idols that I used to watch. And wow, what a great story this is going to be, that I started in the back seat of this car. And
Yeah.
so that was
See,
inspiring to me. It was
yeah.
like, it wasn't depressing. I was like,
Hmm.
this is great. This is perfect. I don't want to tell people I'm rich and I had this mansion and I bought my way to, no, I didn't,
Sure.
that didn't happen like that at all. I had to, pay the dues, so to speak. And then you had to advertise yourself. You had to go out there and market yourself. So, I had, really curly long hair, as you knew
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
and attractive young man for the
Sure. Sure.
ladies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, well, that'll be my angle. I'll just kind of, I guess I was smarter back then than I thought, because I was like, that'll be my angle. I'm gonna hit up all these hot babes, because I know all the hot babes know all the dudes,
There you go.
all the band guys. So I would hand out my cards. I made these drummer cards, and hey, if you know anybody looking for a drummer, let me know. Oh yeah, Paul, we love you. Oh, yeah. And they were strippers, and I had a lot of like girl friends
Sure.
that just wanted to help. They were actually really cool people, but I knew that without doing that, I'm just like the guy staying at home that's hoping that someone's going to knock on their door. You got to let people know you're out there. And I was just coming from New Jersey, I was a new guy out there. So yeah, one day I get a call, hey, Pat from XYZ, where I was working, this guy Pat from XYZ said he got your number from some girl and he
There you
wants to
go.
talk to you. I'm like, there it is. My plan worked.
And Terry and Pat were already in the band, right? You and Mark came into the band.
Yeah, Terry and Pat started the band in France.
Right.
And then they came over here, and then Mark joined the band next. And they already had a drummer at that time. But they were having some problems with their drummer that I found out later. And even a friend of mine, said, "Hey, the house band at the whiskey, because they had the big XYZ logo on the side of the club, and everyone used to think it was the XYZ club, where they had the whiskey on the front, really
Yeah.
small,
Yeah.
But my buddy went and saw XYZ there. I didn't even really know who they were that much. I knew they were a house band, but I didn't, know that they were as big as they were at that time.
Right.
And he said, "Yeah, I went to see this band, and they were okay, but man, you'd be perfect for that band. If they're ever looking for a drummer, you need to audition." I'm like, "All right, well, I'll keep that in mind. If they ever audition a drummer, I'll audition just because you said that. If you think I'll
Right.
be a good fit for it." And about a week later is when I got that call.
Nice.
So that was kind
Nice.
of like, wow. And I went to my buddy. I was like, "Remember you told me I should audition for XYZ? They just called me." And the rest was, it was kind of fun. We just had a few rehearsals together, and we were going to they were going to do a showcase at the whiskey and use Frankie Banali, uh, RIP
Right.
for my boy Frankie.
Hmm.
They were going to use Frankie Banali because they didn't have a drummer at the time. They already fired him. And so they were telling me this. It's like, yeah, we got this show in 2 weeks, and we're going to use Frankie Banali. It's a real important show, and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And I was like, "Paul, this is your opportunity, man. Don't let this go." And I told him, I was like, "Don't hire Frankie. Please
Yeah.
don't hire him. Hire me. I promise. I'm gonna learn these songs. I'm gonna practice every night. I'm a student at the Musicians Institute. I have my own room over there, and I'm gonna be there day and night. I promise you guys, I won't let you down. I will
Right.
not let you down." And Pat, the bass player, looked at me. He's like, "Oh, there's something about you, man. It's like you got the fire in your eye." And I did. It's like when you want something really bad, it just seeps through you.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So I had a lot of confidence, and I wasn't really cocky. It was kind of, a mellow guy, but I had confidence. I knew what I was capable of doing, and I heard their music. I'm like, "Oh, this is perfect." I really would love playing this kind of stuff. So they didn't hire me at that time, but they hired me for the gig. They said, "We'll let you do, we're not going to tell you, you're not in the band or anything, but we'll let you do this
Right.
gig." We had a few rehearsals, and then we did the gig, and I still think it was like one of the best gigs we ever did. It was fantastic. And
Now, were you playing the song, were you playing the songs at the time that were on the first XYZ album
A
when
lot
you
of them,
played with
yeah,
them? A
a
lot
lot
of
of
them.
them.
Okay.
Yep, a
Good.
lot of
Yeah.
them. And so at the last song, we all went upstairs to the dressing room, and the guys tackled me to the ground. Tackle me, rubbing my, oh my God, great job, man, great job, great job. And it felt so good, because it's for me, it's really important that I make the guys that I work with proud.
Sure.
I don't want to
Yeah.
make mistakes for them. I want to do the best I can for them, because if
Right.
I can do my best, then the whole band is going to sound as best as it could. It's not going to be weak because I was unprepared. So it was important to me to gain their trust and for them to like me. So I really worked hard to make that happen. And then we went back and did an encore. And during the encore, Terry announced without any warning, please welcome the new drummer of XYZ, Paul Monroe.
There you go.
So that was really cool, right on
That's
stage.
a good, that was a good platform to have sh- been a shining star because, look what happened in the encore. Now you're a member of XYZ.
Yeah, and the next song, it didn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
I think
Yeah.
we played Beat It,
Oh,
by
really?
Michael Jackson. We're just
Yeah.
screwing around. And I think we played around a little bit with Inside Out. Here's a new one for
Okay.
you. And
Nice.
it was great, and it's just like, yeah, and everything was awesome at that time. Things happened very quickly, got our record deal, slipped through that window, but then we quickly realized that, wow, this is not a bonfire we have here. It's a little candle.
Yes.
We got a small flame and it's going to go out quickly. So, and that's kind of what happened. It was short-lived, but fun, and I'm glad that I had the experience.
Well, there was a lot of bands, 89, 90, 91. There was a lot of still hair metal bands that released albums. If they would have been released 4 years prior to that or 5 years prior to that,
Right,
these bands would have been just crazy huge. Like you were
right,
talking about sleeping in the back seat of a car, and
right.
I was talking to David Reese. He was the lead singer of Bangalore Choir,
Okay.
and he did an album with Accept. And I interviewed him last year, and he said that after their gigs, they would literally walk by cars and pull the handle to see if it was unlocked, and
Wow.
just go lay in the back seat and sleep,
Wow.
and hope like hell that they woke up the next morning and got out of the car before.
Oh,
But
wow.
he said, I'm not ashamed of that because
Yeah.
it's like what you just said. He's like, we were so close to getting a record deal. We were playing and so close. And I knew one day I wouldn't be sleeping in the back seat of somebody's car. He said,
That's
that's what I did it for. But he also said, when you went to a show, you didn't judge how many people were there. You knew it was going to be a great show as how many girls were there. Because the
right.
guys didn't matter. And he said the same thing you said. He said these girls that were on the strip, uh, you know, they they bought food for guys.
Oh yeah.
They bought them clothes.
Oh yeah.
They helped sell tickets. And if it
Yeah.
wasn't for the women that you were talking about, I don't think the Sunset Strip would have ever really been that much.
Right, right. That's exactly right. In fact, Terry and Pat, they were broke.
Right.
They didn't have any money. And I'm like, how are you guys even paying your rent? I mean, you don't have a dollar. They said, we got strippers that live with us. They pay our rent for us. They buy us clothes,
Yeah.
anything we need. They clean for us. And that they basically, they just lived off of these women that, the different women would come to their apartment every day,
Sure.
and they're their friends, but they felt obligated to support and help the starving musician.
Right.
So I never had that. I wasn't rich, but I had some money. I had my own apartment, and I couldn't relate to that. I was like, I didn't understand. Like, why would somebody
Right.
want to just pay for everything for you? And in a way, I was like, not jealous, but I kind of pat them on the back. Like, I don't know how you guys are doing it, getting everything paid for you, but good for you, man. I can't do that. I can't go to that level because feel like I'm just lowering myself where, I've hit rock bottom. Now I got exposed to all these women that I'm broke and I have
Sure.
nothing and I need, I don't want to rely on anybody. So it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around, but at the same time, it's like, if you're in that situation, you got that, then good for you. Take advantage of it. And the same thing happened when we got on the road, all these women, uh, they do anything just to come on the bus and, just hang out. So yeah, we'd have
Right.
them do our laundry, we'd have them clean the bus and, take care of our hotels for us because we left
Yeah.
it a mess and they would do it without, and I just thought that that's just the way it's supposed to be. Oh, this
Right.
is how it works. You don't know, your first time out there, you don't know what's going on. But you quickly realize, that's not the way it's supposed to work. It's just, that's just the way it just went down because they were so willing, you
Well,
know.
in this day and time, that's great. That would be greatly frowned upon if musicians
Exactly.
were doing that. But I just think just being the time it was and the situation it was, and like I say, the culture it was,
Yep.
you know, that's just what that's what girls that's what they did. They
Yeah.
supported, and like I say, if it weren't for the blood, sweat, and tears and stripper poles of a lot of these women, these guys would have packed it up and went back to wherever they came from and
Yeah.
just said,
No,
I'm done.
it's amazing. And a lot of them were real diehard fans too. We'd travel, you know, 500 miles away to, a few other cities and hey, weren't you in the other city? Like, oh yeah, we drove down here, we're
Wow.
making a whole trip out. I'm like, wow, you really just following the band like group. You're like, so you're like a real groupie.
A
Like
real groupie, yeah.
stuff I hear about and see it like this is really happening. Like this is real
Yeah.
stuff. So to
Right.
me, it was kind of wild. I'll tell you a funny story. Like when we first, because we didn't know, we didn't know like how big we were, how small we were, or
Mhm.
record deals are like, oh, we got a record deal. I guess anybody can get it. It's not that hard, but it was.
Right.
And when we first got on the road, we did a tour with Ted Nugent. So that was our first tour, the Whiplash Bash tour. And what I quickly realized is that you get an hour to play on, every night on stage, but all the rest of the day you work. You got to do interviews, you got to
Yeah.
do record signings, you got to show up at stores and ice cream places and promote the radio things. And, we did all of that. And I'll never forget, we went to this Tower Records and a limo picked us up and said, yeah, we got to take you guys. You're going to do a autograph signing today. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. So we get in this limo, pull up to Tower Records. And there's a huge line all the way around the building. And we're all looking at that going, whoa, what band is here? Who's signing autographs now? Must be like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or something. Van Halen might be here. What if Van
Right.
Halen's here? That'd be awesome. So I will just wait. So, we get there and the guy that's promoting the thing comes out to meet us at the car. The first thing we ask, like, wow, dude, like, are we early? Like, who's in there now? Like, who are all these people waiting for? Like, oh, they're waiting for you guys. That's your
Right.
crowd. There's no one else here. They've been here all day. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So that kind of stuff was like, wow, is this really like real? And luckily we never took that for granted. We always talk to our fans, even to this day, when people hit me up on Messenger and everything. Hey, sorry to bother you, Paul. I'm like, the first thing, you're not bothering me at all.
Right.
You just made my day. If I could put a smile on your face in some
Sure.
way. So, we really had a good relationship with our fans and always try to talk to them and, after the show, before the show, backstage, whatever we could do. We knew that they were really the stepping stone for wherever we got. And it's, you know, fans like that, people like that, that without them, you're nothing.
Exactly.
So treat them the way that you would like to be treated. That was
Right.
really, really important. Some of them were
Exactly.
rude, and
Sure.
you just kind of got to blow that off. They just expected things. You get pissed off because I didn't throw them a drumstick during the show, or
Yeah.
I was like, okay, dude, I'll get you a drumstick. Don't have to be mad about it.
Well, coming from a fan's side and perspective, just I was on the East Coast most of the stuff was happening on the West Coast, but yeah, the East Coast had their own, not necessarily Sunset Strip, but you know, you had Heaven's Edge, you had Trickster, uh, Cinderella, Skid Row, yeah, all these. But anyway, to actually get close enough to somebody to talk to them, and I have got close enough to people before, and when I walked away, I'm like, I'd never imagined that person would be that arrogant.
Yeah.
But it
Right.
didn't stop me from being a fan. That's just how some people are.
Yeah.
But M3, I love M3 because of the fact that the the musicians will walk back and forth, and there's somebody in the very back that's sitting there waiting, you know, that came to see them, that they hadn't seen you, blah blah blah. But I took so many pictures with people that it just thrilled me because I'm looking around and I'd look at my wife and say, there's Carrie Howe, the drummer from Leatherwolf. She's like, well, you gonna go get his autograph? I'm like, yeah. And then I get up there and I act like a kid and I don't know what to say, you know, but I met so many people there, and it would have been cool to have met you, but I just walked out the bathroom a couple seconds later than you did. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's great that you guys still go out and play music. It's great that
Yeah.
there's a M3 and hair metal is having a resurgence.
Yeah.
Some of the newer bands that are coming out, they have their own style, but you still hear, you know, you hear Guns N' Roses in it, you hear Faster Pussycat in it. It depends on what genre it is, if it's sleaze or AOR or whatever. But it's great that that bands still go out, even if it's just one original member of the band.
Right.
Because Y&T we saw, and Dave Minichetti, I believe he's the only one that's still alive in that
Yeah.
band. But he got a band that went out and
Yeah.
played with him, and they played everything that I love from. They played exactly what I wanted to hear,
Yeah.
you know, and it was great. I saw him; it was just him, but I got to see Y&T. You know,
Yeah.
But my point is, if you guys being as nice as you were to fans, you don't really understand what that means to somebody. But I mean,
Oh,
you grew up listening to music. You had music idols, and
sure.
you'd have been the same way if you could have got close to them at the time. But it means a lot for somebody to, you know, talk to you or shake your hand or something. You know,
Well, and that's what a lot of fans may not understand is that you may be intimidated and, maybe the guy's going to be arrogant, or I met this other
sure,
guy, he was arrogant. So they all are. So they put a bad label on us.
right,
But there are some guys that are just like the fan, like they appreciate it just as much as you do. The fact that you're inspired by them in some way, that touches me,
right,
so I get a
right,
kick out of that. So I'll spend time and I'll talk with you. And it's just like it's almost the same. The fan is like, oh, I'm talking to this guy I always wanted to meet. And the musician is like, wow, I'm talking to a fan that
right,
really wanted to meet me, knew what albums we had.
sure,
He named off some songs like you did.
hmm,
It's like,
yeah,
wow, like he paid attention, and that means a lot. It's a mutual respect, I think. There's for some of us,
the
me
first,
especially, and I know like Mark, from XY, all the guys from XYZ, were that way.
right.
It was definitely a mutual respect, and we were what's the word? We were flattered
There you go.
by it.
Yeah,
You know?
the first the first person I ever met from the '80s era was the first year we went to M3, and we had the seats up on the lawn.
Okay.
Okay, we were that far back, but
Yeah.
somebody just happened to walk through there and said, "Hey, we're not going to be able to be here on Sunday. Would you like our seats?" So they gave us their tickets. So we had seats
Yeah.
pretty far down,
Yeah.
and I'm like a kid in the candy store. I told my wife, it's like, we got to be the first in line. We got to get in first because something might happen. You might see somebody walk around because on the side of the stage at M3 is where
Yeah.
all the buses are, and you actually see
Right.
people walk by.
Right.
But
Right.
anyway, we were sitting there in the seats, and this guy walks out holding a dog, little Chihuahua looking dog. And I
Yeah.
told my wife, I said, that's Tammy Down from Faster Pussycat. He's
Right.
like, well, go talk to him. He was talking to, so there's nobody in it. Me and my wife and a couple of other people were actually at our seats, and I walked down to him and he walked right up to me, and I never would have thought he would have been such a nice person.
Yeah,
He
that's
come up
great.
there to where we were. He took his picture with me. You know, the security guard lady, I didn't have a pen or anything with me that
Yeah,
year. She let me borrow a pen. He signed my ticket stub. And you know, I was a happy man
yeah.
just, having
And
that
so was he.
experience.
So was he.
Yeah. So it's
So
it's
was he.
great.
Yeah. And with that said, I went to Iron Maiden. I went to Iron Maiden recently over here. And my buddy was like, "Hey, look over there in the sound booth. That's Iron Maiden's manager." I'm like, "Oh wow, I don't know, I don't follow who their
Sure.
manager is. He said the name. I don't even remember what it was at that. I totally forgot. But um, he, it's not somebody that you would recognize. You
Sure.
recognize Bruce Dickinson, because you've
Yes.
seen him everywhere.
Yeah.
Nico McBrain, you see him you're like, oh, okay, Adrian Smith, I know those guys, but the
Right.
manager, I've never really noticed. It kind of looks familiar, maybe. I don't know. I don't really know him that well. So my point is, and to me, he's not like a rock star. But my buddy was like, oh man, I got to get a picture with him. Like, oh, just ask him, man. He's probably a cool guy. Went over
Right.
to him. Hey, can I get a picture? And he was like, "No, I don't do that. Get out of here." I'm like, wow, man. That guy's not even in the band. I don't even think one of the band members would have done that because they seem like cool
Yeah.
guys. But
Right. Yeah.
I mean, some people just it's not important to them. You're bothering them.
Sure.
know?
Sure.
And if that's the case, good. I let that go. I get that too. Maybe he has 1,000 people come up to him on every show
Right.
and ask him that. After a while, it's like I forget. I can't. I'm
Yeah.
busy. I have
And
things
as
to
a
do.
fan, as a fan, you have to understand that. Like at M3, they'll artists will come out in the back there where they're selling T-shirts. There's 300 people that pile up around them. In a situation like that, I'm like, I'm not going to bother them because if I wait long enough, you'll see them walking around by themselves later on. Then I'll go up and say, hey, can I take a picture with you
Right.
or whatnot?
Right.
And as a fan, you have to understand that too because you guys get, you know, you're gracious and you don't mind, but it's not that people are arrogant. It's like last year we went. Aldo Nova was at M3 and we went to they have a party in the lodge that they all stay at. Well, Aldo Nova was coming down and something was wrong with his room or something, and he was aggravated. He was very upset that people kept constantly walking up to him. And he wasn't being a grouch, but he was in the middle of doing something. And as a fan, you have to say, maybe he'll come down later, but he's
Right.
trying to take care of something now. But people are like, oh, he's just arrogant. Blah, blah. I'm thinking, I told my wife, like, he's not arrogant. He's trying to take care of something that's messed up. But some fans
Yeah.
are just jerks and don't understand that.
They don't understand that. Like if I really like if I was at a restaurant and I saw like one of my idols,
Sure.
I don't want to bother him during dinner, but it's just such a moment. Like is it be I probably would just go up to him and say, "Hey, man, I'm just a huge fan. I know you're having dinner. I appreciate you." That's it.
Yeah.
Give me a little fist pump.
Yeah.
I just want, and I think they would appreciate that. It's like, hey, the guy didn't bother me. He acknowledged who I was. He just didn't want to give me 3 seconds of my time. Just get a little fist pump. That's it. I just want to say hello. I love what you do. If you as the fan are intimidated to do that, it's because you don't want your ego to get hurt,
Sure.
because what's the
Exactly.
worst that can happen? They're going to say no. If you can handle that rejection, then you should do it every time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, tell me what you're working on now.
So, yeah, I mean, after grunge and, rap took over, Mark and I, it's unbelievable to even think this, but we took about a 25-year hiatus from the music industry.
Wow.
And I built a cybersecurity business for myself and really didn't play that much until I had this hole in my heart. and it was something was missing, and quickly realized it's drumming. I mean,
Right.
this is what I love to do. Like, what in the world was I thinking? But I'd been playing the drums since I was 5 years old, and doing the XYZ thing and touring, and it really took a lot out of me. So by the time I was, you know, years past the XYZ, and then played with a few bands after that, when everything kind of died out, I was like, I thought I was done. I was like, I don't know if I want to play the drums anymore, which is, I can't even imagine I was thinking that. But came back, maybe 10 years ago, been playing almost every day since. And Mark and I really didn't talk that much. Maybe every year or two we call each other. But I started hitting him up. And I was like, dude, we should probably try and get the band back together, and they had a new lineup. And
Hmm.
there was, some things going on that maybe we thought we could be a part of. So there's a lot of things that went on, and you'll probably see some social media posts that XYZ is doing a new album and all this stuff.
Sure.
And I don't know, who knows what's going to happen with any of that stuff. But there is a new lineup. Bottom line was Mark and I decided, you know what, let's go our own route. Let's just do our own thing, because we weren't really seeing eye to eye and everything, and things were kind of moving a little slow. And so Mark was like, let's just do our own thing. We have our, some songs that me and Mark had been working on, some ideas were going back and forth. Now, it took me a while for me to convince Mark to even come back to the scene, because he was done.
Right.
And I kind of, laid into him a little bit. I was like, you got a lot of fans out there, man,
Sure.
and God gave you a gift, you know.
Yes.
And I told him, I said, how dare you take that gift and keep it to yourself and not share it with the rest of the world? Now with
Right.
social media, who knows what's going to happen? We don't know if we're going to tour or any of this, but let's put a band together. Let's record all these songs and just have fun and leave
Hmm.
it at that and see what happens. So that's what we did. We found a singer from London,
Wow.
and we found a bass player that I play with sometimes in a little church project that they call me once in a while. And he's an
Hmm.
amazing bass player. Now he's actually on the road with Sebastian Bach. Uh,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Nice.
Federico Delfino is his name.
Okay.
Fantastic bass player. So we got this project together, and we've already recorded probably about 12 songs already. Half of them are cover tunes, half
Hmm.
of them are all originals.
Okay.
And we just launched our first song. The name of the band is Diggs and Company. So people ask, well, what is that? What is Diggs and Company? Well, Marc Diglio is the guitar
Okay.
player from
Yes.
XYZ. We're both original members of XYZ, but Diglio, his nickname back in the day was Diggs. Everyone used to call him
Right.
Diggs, and still his friends call, hey, Diggs, what are you doing, man? So I'm like, this is your project, man. You're writing all these songs, I'm just laying the backbeat down for you, and I pulled you into this, but really this is your project, and I'm just part of it. Let's call it Diggs and Company, you
There
know.
you go.
And
Yeah.
so we did. We ran a few different names and realized, it's not the name that makes the band, it's the band that makes the name,
That is
you
correct.
know. And
That's correct.
just real quick with that, I mean, I'm sure when the members of KISS were sitting around in a circle, and what should we call ourselves? Well, how about KISS? Like, KISS.
Right.
Why don't we just call ourselves like Lips or Teeth or something like that? How stupid is that? Well, now when you think of KISS, you think of the band. You don't think of KISS, and
That's
the
exactly
band
right.
made the name. Same thing with like what the Beatles.
Yes.
You're gonna
Right.
call
Right.
yourself the Beat. Why don't we just call ourselves the Insects, or
Yeah. Exactly.
the Bumble? I mean, like the flying bumblebees or whatever. Like
Right.
the Beatles. That's the worst thing I ever heard. The Scorpions. Scorpions. Like all these
Right. Yeah.
animals.
Scorpions.
Anyway, so you got
Yeah.
these crazy names, but you tend to, it grows with you.
Sure.
And grows. So the name of the band is Diggs and Company. You could find us on YouTube. So we released one original, When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin. It's on our YouTube channel now, called Diggs and Company. And and it's fun. We recorded it. With the next one we're gonna release as an original, and then eventually we're gonna give access to the full album, a double album of half covers, half originals. But it's a really fun project with some good guys. Unfortunately, Federico, because he's touring with Sebastian Bach, he couldn't finish the project with us on the first song and do the video. There's a few things that we needed to have done. So we got Sean McNabb to
Right.
to play bass. Sean is a great friend of mine. He actually played on the XYZ's third album that
Right.
Terry and I did. Mark and Pat were not involved in that. So Sean played on that, and after that, plays with everybody now.
House of Lords. He played on
House
House.
of
Yeah,
Lords.
all
He was
kinds
in
of people.
Dokken. He was in
Yeah,
Lynch
yeah.
Mob.
Right.
He's been around, but
He's
he's
a
a great.
multi-purpose guy in any
Yeah,
band. He can fit right into any
yeah,
project and just start playing.
yep. And he's a really good friend and an amazing person too. He's a really really good guy. Um, I called him up. I said, Sean, we're stuck here. We need a bass track done for this tune. He was like, "Huh, I'm in. Let's do it." So he laid it down, and that's who you see on the first video.
Right.
So right now we're just trying to, if you're watching this, go ahead and head over to the YouTube channel, check it out, Diggs and Company, subscribe. Like I was talking about the algorithms earlier. It seems like we're getting a lot of views right now. There's like 4,000 views in a week, but not too many people are commenting
Sure. Yeah.
or even just hitting the like on it.
Yes.
Just watching it, wow, that was cool, and then moving on to the next video. As an artist, it's really important to just, for us, if you could just hit the like, subscribe, so you know of the new stuff we have coming down, and then comment a lot. I love to chat with people in the comments if
Right.
they ask a question or, what do you guys got going next, or, I'll chat with them because they want to know, and I
Right.
want to communicate with them, let them know what's going on. So yeah, so right now we're getting the views. We just need people to get on there and subscribe and comment and just enjoy the music because we don't know what's going to happen, but we need the fans. We rely on, and we're doing it for them. We're writing some good stuff, and we hope that everybody's going to like it. It's a little different than XYZ, but it's really good stuff. I'm not just saying that. I mean, I told Mark,
Right.
dude, you're a writing machine. Him with Lee are a vocalist. Between the two of them, oh my God, they're just writing stuff that I even got goosebumps right now. They're writing such great stuff, and I'm just laying down my tracks, and then a couple ballads they did by themselves. I'm like, don't even put drums on these, just guitar and
Yeah.
vocals.
Right.
It's so good, and the melodies are so great. People are gonna love this stuff. So it's just a matter of getting it to a mass amount of people
Right.
because the people that we advertise it to on Facebook and YouTube, they're really nice comments. They're really enjoying it. They're really excited to hear what's coming up next. Like, wow, just those few people. I mean, it's not few, it's a thousand, a few thousand people, but if they really like it that much, then maybe 100,000 people would like it
Sure.
just as much. So it's just a matter of how do we get it there? We got our poles in the water right now, and we're
There you
beating
go.
up those poles and
Waiting
just
to see what's going to bite.
we're gonna see what's gonna bite. We're waiting for that big shark to come in.
I'm glad that you're making music. I've talked to several guys that, you know, they had a band, they had a job, they did what they needed to do. They have been away from it for a while. So some of them will tell me, I haven't picked up a guitar in 30 years, that kind of stuff. But a lot of them will say, I'm working on me and some buddies from back in the day, we started this little gig, started just gigging and we're having
Yeah,
fun doing it. There's no pressure on us. We all get together and, more and more people are coming to see us. I'm having fun now.
that's it.
It's
That's
nice to
it.
hear you guys out. Still XYZ runs through your veins.
Right.
I get that.
Yep.
If XYZ goes out on tour, I'm sure you guys will do what you can to tour. But now you're still with one of your bandmates. You're
Yep.
playing music and you're having fun doing it. I think
That's the
I
most
think
important
that's
thing.
great.
Yeah, and I told Mark, let's just leave it at that. I don't know what's
Sure.
going to happen, but let's just stop doing it when we stop having fun. But
Right.
we're just having such a blast. I told him, I said, we don't want to look back 10 years from now and regret that we didn't try.
Right.
We didn't try.
Right.
This is something that we want to get out. And, I play every day. I practice every day. Mark's playing all the time now, writing all the time. I'm like, if you're doing that, let's share it with people. What
Right.
I just keep it in
Exactly.
our own room. So that's where we're at. And And the whole thing is just about having fun. The vibe between all the band members um, is just fantastic. Everybody's real low keyed, there's no ego heads in the band, and everybody just laughs with each other. We get along so well, and we're just enjoying our time together. Who knows what's going to happen, but the most important thing is to enjoy the time.
Well, I sent you a CD cover about a year and a half ago, and you autographed it for me and sent it back to me. It's back during COVID.
Oh, wow.
And I have it on my wall. I actually, when I sent it to you, Terry gave me his address, and I mailed the same thing to Terry. So I actually got two of you signed
There
the
you go.
original XYZ CD insert. So I'm real happy about that. I'm proud of it.
Fantastic. I can get you Mark on there too. I can get Mark on there for you.
It's a good memory. It's a good memory because this music and talking to people like yourself is all about memories and happier times, better times in my life that I didn't have to worry about anything but just listening to music
Yeah.
or going to high school or taking a test. I didn't have to pay bills. I
Yeah.
didn't have to worry about homeowners insurance, kids in trouble. Yeah, I
Right.
didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It was just putting music in there that you heard on MTV, the Headbangers Ball, turning it as loud as you could, getting the newest episode, newest Male Edge magazine, and flipping through it and reading articles. That's what this is all about, and I
Yeah.
love it. And I appreciate you coming on the show. I hope you had fun. This show is never going to be anything. It's not ever going to be big, but I enjoy doing
You
it
enjoy it. Yeah.
because
That's the most important thing.
I would have never thought I would be talking to Paul Monroe when I
Yeah.
was 53 years old on a podcast that
Right
a
on.
handful of people listen to now. But you know what? I got to meet you. You're an awesome guy.
Well, I appreciate that. And likewise, I mean, like I said, it's a blessing to be able to talk to people like you because I know that you're really into what you do. I could tell. I see the background you have with all the pictures.
That's
This
all my
guy,
records
yeah.
back there, pinned to
And
the wall.
yeah,
So,
and I have so many people that reach out to me and say, "Hey, man, I don't play any instruments, but I'm just a diehard fan of
yes.
hard rock music, and I loved you guys, and I just wanted to say hello." And I'm like, man, those diehard fans of music
Yeah.
like you, I really appreciate. I think you guys are
Sure.
the best, and you're the ones that keep us going.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I hope to I'm getting ready to go to YouTube and watch your new band when
Oh,
I
there you
get off
go.
here with you. And
Let me know. Let me know what you think.
you'll get another subscriber pop
Oh, I
up there in
appreciate that.
just a few minutes, and I'll do all I can to spread the word about your new project. And
Right
sir,
on. Leave a comment below, and I'll respond to you.
sure will. Well, sir, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure,
Thank
and
you.
I hope to maybe talk to you again sometime. And God bless you, and take care of yourself, sir.
You too. Have a great rest of the day, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, sir.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.